A warm welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Wednesday, June 9th. We begin with news that the July 28 date for this year's sitting of the 11 Plus exam has the backing of the island's two teachers' unions. General Secretary of the Barbados Union of Teachers, Herbert Gittins, tells Barbados Today teachers have been busy preparing their students, and while they would have preferred an earlier date in July, he is comfortable the students will be ready.
Even given the challenges in COVID and Yash and all of that, we still felt that this cohort of students should be given an opportunity to take the exam this year. And we had actually called for this effect, and we had even proposed, initially we had proposed the 6th of July, but then at the beginning of Monday we had said we would even go with 13th, and the latest that we would have gone with was the 20th of July if they felt that that additional weeks were needed. So generally the union, although we would have preferred an earlier date, we don't have a challenge with a date being announced for the end of July.
President of the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union, Mary Redmond, agreed the move is in the best interest of the island students.
The results of the assessments done are clear that there are serious deficits generally and more particularly in mathematics with our students at that level. Even in the best of years, too many students enter secondary school with deficits in maths, and the BSTU has repeatedly asked over time that there be some adjustment of the mathematics curriculum in primary school based on complaints from and recommendations of our heads of department at the secondary level. One must also consider the professional opinion and recommendations too of our Class 4 teachers, and these must be respected and actively considered in the process. They're the ones that teach at that level, they assess, and they have asked for more time to deal with the deficits that our children have demonstrated.
Education Minister Cynthia Bradshaw told a news conference at Elara Court this morning that the 11 Plus is the only available method to transfer students from primary to secondary school, but she made it clear that government is on track with its work to abolish the test.
If we could have avoided an examination, by all means we would have. But I think that I've explained to you before, this is really the only way in which we could at this point exit the students with a standardized test. It is the only way that we will know how they are performing, but we recognize that these deficits have long existed. This is not about an exam today. This is about deficits that we need to correct in terms of our pedagogy, in terms of our teacher training, in terms of just the way we deliver instruction and differentiated instruction. These issues go way deeper than a date being set for an examination.
Prior to settling on the July 28 date for the exam, the Ministry of Education conducted a readiness assessment among Class 4 students that revealed several deficits. Acting Chief Education Officer Joy Adamson outlined the findings at today's news conference.
The syllabus was not completed, and that is understandable because of how we were actually operated and what the minister would have alluded to, the challenges that would have been experienced at our primary schools, some of our primary schools. Students had great difficulty in understanding mathematical concepts taught in the online environment, and this was also shared when we spoke to the Class 4 teachers. It is very difficult to teach some concepts such as geometry using an online platform. And although the performance in English was moderate, there is still need for improvement in all content areas. We believe that more than 50% of our students will need extra time to prepare for the BSSC 2021. And we also recognize the fact that over 50% of the students who proceed on to secondary school will obviously proceed with some severe deficits that will have to be addressed.
In light of the findings, the Ministry of Education will offer deferrals to students who may not feel ready to take the 11 Plus. However, Director of the Education Reform Unit, Dr. Ida Mae Denny, announced that major reforms are coming to the school curriculum, and those students opting to defer will be given special support.
Some of them may have to repeat the entire Class 4 program. And where that is the case, we are going to sort of truncate the curriculum that is given to these children so that they are not doing so many subjects. These children generally do 12 and 13 subjects at the first form level. Where we have children going in with these significant deficits, we don't want them doing 12 and 13 subjects. So we are going to truncate the curriculum, focus heavily on literacy and numeracy, ensure that they get some social studies, ensure that they get exposure to some science, ensure that they get exposure to physical education, because that is one of the critical things that we are learning from the pandemic, that our children need to be able to move around. And we are also going to focus on the health and family life education, because their mental health is also going to be very critical. So we are going to give them a smaller program that is going to have a focus on literacy and numeracy, and it is going to be implemented in all schools where the performance of the students allocated to those schools reflect major deficits.
On the streets, Barbadians have been sharing mixed views on the ministry's plans to hold the annual test on July 28.
It's good because I think that it gives the children and the teachers and parents an opportunity to ensure that the children are better prepared for the examination in light of all that's happened with COVID and the disruption of schools and stuff. So I think it's a good decision. And it also pretty much encompasses everybody into the agreement and make sure everybody is in agreement with what's happening. And yeah, it's a good decision that's been made.
We've been waiting a while to hear our date for the common entrance. It's very unfortunate that we find ourselves in this situation as regards to COVID, and that the children have been losing out so much on school. There's a lot of online going on, but there's nothing like being in person, having the interaction with your schoolmates and having to see your teacher. There's a few weeks that they have been back into school, but for me, my grandson is preparing for common entrance, and he is not ready for common entrance.
I think the date should be revised till next year. I think it's pointless doing a common entrance exam this year, because the youngsters have had that gap in their education. And I think it's very unfair to the youngsters, after the year we've just had, to go in and sit a common entrance exam. It makes no sense whatsoever. So yeah, I don't agree. I think it needs to be deferred, but I think it needs to be deferred till next year.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news, Trinidad and Tobago will spend 107 million TT dollars to vaccinate 85% of the population. Finance Minister Com Embert announced the move today as he delivered his mid-year budget review. We get the details from Sunil Lala of TTT News.
US $15.7 million or TT $107 million will be used to vaccinate 1.2 million people in this country. Due to non-disclosure agreements signed, Finance Minister Com Embert says he could not divulge too much information, but said a significant amount of money has already been spent on vaccine procurement.
The Ministry of Finance has made arrangements or already spent US $10.3 million or 70.2 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars on the procurement of vaccines. And the balance to be paid with the current arrangements for the procurement of vaccines is US $5.4 million.
Mr. Embert says due to the pandemic, the Ministry of Health has been given a supplementation of 267 million TT dollars, of which a significant amount is for use by regional health authorities.
There is an amount here within the 267 million of $86 million broken down across the various RHAs, with the bulk of the funding, $34 million, going to the North Central RHA, in which the Couva Hospital is located, as well as the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex.
On the international scene, U.S. President Joe Biden is expected to outline a plan this week to provide millions of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines around the world. More in this report from Reuters Television.
Under pressure for not doing enough to share vaccines with the world, the Biden administration plans to donate 500 million Pfizer coronavirus vaccine doses to about 100 countries over the next 2 years, three sources told Reuters, adding that the U.S. is likely to distribute 200 million shots this year and 300 million in the first half of next year. Do you expect to come out with a vaccine strategy for the world? Asked on Wednesday before departing to Europe whether he had a global vaccine strategy, Biden teased the deal.
I have one and I'll be announcing it. Thank you.
President Joe Biden is expected to make a formal announcement in Britain on Thursday at the G7 summit. The donations will go through the COVAX vaccine facility, which distributes COVID-19 shots to low and middle income countries. They're a big jump from the Biden administration's previous goal of sharing at least 80 million vaccine doses with the world by the end of June. The New York Times reported that the United States will buy the doses at a not-for-profit price, citing people familiar with the deal. The agreement is in addition to the 300 million shots the United States has already purchased from Pfizer, bringing the total number of Pfizer-BioNTech shots purchased by the U.S. to 800 million.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.